and we'll get started for the sake of time. Good morning, everyone. I would say welcome to the last day of our welcome week, but we did have one reschedule from Tuesday, so there is still one more session tomorrow morning, and of course our last keynote this afternoon. So I hope you have enjoyed the programming so far this week and that you will join us this afternoon and tomorrow morning as well. This morning we are going to kick off our programming today with our presenters from the NC State Belk Center, who are going to give us an overview of our new Title III Navigate project. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kim Sepich, and she will introduce the rest of her team.
Good morning, everyone. It is such a pleasure to join you today. Daniel and Dracia and I, who are your presenters today, and you'll meet Daniel and Dracia in just a minute. We have had the tremendous honor and pleasure of working with some folks from the college in the evaluation work that we did in the summer and fall of 2021. I'm still not used to saying 2022 or writing it anywhere, so all of my dates are off, but it was a tremendous pleasure to get to know some folks and learn a little bit more about the college. And so today we are here to share with you the results of the evaluation that we did and how it ties into the new CCCC Navigate program that you will be developing through the Title III project grant that you just received. And so with that, I'm going to, we can move to the next slide. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Dracia and Daniel to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. So I'm Kim, the Director of Executive Leadership Programs, and Dracia, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I hope everyone is doing well today. I am a research associate with the Belk Center, and I am also a doctoral student at NC State.
And Daniel.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Daniel West. I am a research associate at the Belk Center, and I was a part of the evaluation team that came out and met a fair number of you over the past few months, so looking forward to working with everyone again.
Great. So we can go to the next slide. And this one is just to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do today. So in just a moment, we'll introduce the Belk Center to give you some context in case you have not had a chance to get to know us just yet. We'll discuss the elements of excellent service. We'll talk a little bit about the service evaluation results that we found in the evaluation project that we did. And then we'll talk a little bit about how that ties into the Central Carolina Title III project, and then the Belk Center's continued role in that work as we move forward. So we can go to the next slide, and I'll share just a bit about the Belk Center. So we were established 3 years ago. We were in the works much longer than that. I think probably about 5 years ago was when we began to establish, but officially established 3 years ago. And we are located in the College of Education at NC State. And we help develop exceptional community college leaders who can address the urgent needs of the colleges. And we also provide research and other resources that help colleges solve critical problems that they're facing today and critical problems that might arise down the road. And we do this with 23 faculty and staff and 12 research affiliates who are mostly faculty located around the country at other universities and research institutions who support the work that we do. And just to dive a little deeper, some of the research topics that we are engaging with right now include transfer, CTE pathways, adult learners, teaching and learning, and then of course we administer the PACE climate survey. The two major programs that we administer through the executive leadership segment of the Belk Center are the President's Academy and now the Rural College Leaders Program, which will support a cohort of 10 rural colleges in enhancing their leadership in their areas. And then we also support NC State's doctoral program in community college leadership and community college leadership through executive mentors for students, and then also by providing writing coaches for the students in the program. So that's just a little bit about what we do. And of course, if anyone's interested in learning more, we're always happy to help you with that. So we can go to the next slide. And I am going to turn this now to Dracia, who is going to lead you through an activity to get us started. And before we get started in the activity, I want you to know that we do have several activities planned today, and we invite you to participate, and we hope that you will. And if you have questions or comments that you would like to make along the way, please feel free to do that. You can raise your hand and using the raise your hand feature at the bottom, or you can also put something in the chat, and we're all going to be monitoring those features, and so we will do our very, very best to respond. So Dracia, you can take it from here.
Thank you. So we are going to start with an activity. I am putting a link in the chat for a Jamboard, and I am going to share my screen now. So we're going to take a minute and describe the best service you have experienced and what made it great. Let's see here. Get to the Jamboard. If we are not familiar with Jamboard, I can give us a quick crash course on what a Jamboard is. So here's our question. Our first prompt is to describe the best service you have experienced and what made it great. Think of a service related to a business process somewhere. So maybe we were in a drive-through somewhere and something was great, or we all have mastered shopping online. Maybe there was something we were doing online, or we had to get our oil changed. So take a moment. There's a few different ways. The best way is to click on the sticky note feature here and then type out your experience. So I'll give everyone a moment to do so, and please let us know in the chat if you are having any issues accessing the Jamboard. So it looks like we have a few coming in. We have some timeliness comments. Needs were met. Kindness, Chick-fil-A, my pleasure. It always warms your heart when you're having a rough day and you just want those fries or those nuggets. Let's see. Feeling important. That's a good one. Patience. Another timeliness. Clear communication. Refunds are great. Just give everyone a few more seconds to get your comments out. And as we're wrapping up on this part of the Jamboard, share in the chat any similarities you have seen as you're reading through some of the comments, and what makes excellent service. So I'll stop sharing for just a second, and then Daniel, if you can put the presentation back up for us. So looking here in the chat, some things that we have listed as elements of excellent service are kindness, genuine willingness to help, clear communication, let's see, hanging in there until the problem is solved, commitment, yeah, personalized assistance. These are some good ones. So we're gonna continue the activity. We're gonna go back to the Jamboard, the same link, and I am going to share my screen again. Stand by, stand by. So our next prompt is, how does service to students at Central Carolina match the elements of exceptional service? So how are the services to students meeting these elements that we have listed from our previous question? How is kindness incorporated? How is clear communication? How is the commitment incorporated? So take a moment, and I'll give you a moment to get your thoughts out, and we'll keep moving on. We have some good comments coming in, a lot of willingness to help, communication, empathy. I'll give you a few more moments just to get some thoughts out on the Jamboard. And as you're making your way back to the Blackboard Collaborate, take a moment in the chat to just elaborate on something that you may have saw on the Jamboard. And if there's anything you'd like to share, just raise your hand and we will be happy to hear from you. So just a few more moments on this activity. Great. I'm going to stop sharing here, and then Daniel, if you want to bring the presentation back up for us. Yes, Yes, Brenda, meeting needs in a timely manner. In a time where it feels like we're constantly on the chase, needs being met in a timely manner is critical. Yes, learning students' names, it goes a long way to remember someone's name or just be able to identify them just in common spaces. So I'm going to go to the next slide so we can look at how the things we have listed today, this morning, match up with the results from our evaluation. So last year, about 38 staff and faculty participated in focus group interviews. There were about 6 focus groups, and the focus groups provided the data for the evaluation of Central Carolina's student enrollment model. And the model was designed, or the focus groups were designed from student satisfaction data, from past surveys, application data, and financial aid data. So these are high level results, and it seems like some of the things we have listed as elements of exceptional service match with what we found in our evaluation. So Central Carolina matches excellent service with strong commitment to supporting students, building rapport with students, clarifying processes, providing accurate information, and building community. And a participant in the focus group said, "What I would want a student to know is we're here for you as a college." And there are also opportunities for growth that were shown from the data. And those areas would be developing a common knowledge base, clarifying roles and expectations, establishing single points of contact for students. I think we mentioned that on the Jamboard, and improving technology for students and staff. So another comment from our focus groups was, I would say that our current model doesn't do a good job of managing expectations. There's a lot of big spaces where we can really fill in gaps. So still fairly high level results. From the focus groups, the data shows that there's some challenges in navigating spaces and information. There's a need for cohesion and common knowledge, a need for students to talk to the right person in certain situations, and there is a need for handling process-based and technology challenges. And the participants in the focus group have a personal stake in this work and understanding the challenges in the enrollment process and the potential solutions, because faculty and staff have a deep care for their work and their profession and the students, and they also want to embody the college's values. So our next slide, I'm going to pass it off to Kim, and we're going to get a little deeper in our discussion of the evaluation and our results.
Thanks, Dracia. And so we'll get even a little bit more specific along the lines of what the focus group participants identified as solutions for some of the challenges. And as Dracia mentioned, all of the information that was provided by the focus groups, both the things that Central Carolina does exceptionally well and the areas for growth, were all provided under the context of we are a fantastic college, and we are super, super committed to our students and to the work that we do. And so we really want to be even better than we are now. And that was loud and clear across all of the focus groups. And so some of the ways that all of the focus groups, pointed out that there could be some room for growth, and there could be some places where we could fill in the gaps, are in how you use technology, how communication is developed and used, and how you can use collaboration to reach some of the students perhaps that aren't as easy to reach as others. And so, of course, when we think about the technology, WebAdvisor always comes to mind. And, I know many colleges that would love to do better with WebAdvisor. So I think across the state, you're in very, very good company there. And I think also many colleges across the state are always interested in expanding access to student information and to faculty and staff. But those two things Particularly, actually, the first 3 bullets were things that all of the focus groups talked about. If we could do this, if we could do that with Web Advisor, if we could give more access, if we could improve the timeliness of access, gosh, wouldn't that be really great for all of us? So those 3 things in particular are of great interest to the folks that were in the focus groups. And then, of course, there was lots of talk about establishing a single point of contact for students, aligning functions, and using data. And we're going to look at some data in just a minute. But all of those 3 bullets were really aligned with, gosh, how can we make this really, really super smooth for students? We're working hard to do that now. We do lots of good things. How can we make that even better? And then the quote, which we won't go through in the box, was really about looking at the big picture. How can we figure out across all of the elements in the service model and across the college what's going on, and how can we figure out where our gaps are, and then how can we hone in and do the things that we need to do to strengthen those places within the college. So we can go to the next slide now. And like we've mentioned before, overall, the participants in all the focus groups really, really want to find solutions and to the challenges and implement changes. So that was loud and clear too. It's like, yeah, we kind of get where we can do better, and we really want to, and here are the things that we think that we can do to improve the student experience. So that was really, really fantastic for us to hear and experience with you. So we can go to the next slide. And so, you may wonder, okay, well, we've heard some of this, and some of this, information we're pretty familiar with, but let's look at some data and talk about, what led the college to want to do this type of evaluation in the first place. So we'll start with looking at some student data, and this data may be familiar to some of you, but when we look at application data, which I think is primarily what we're looking at here, application and then student retention and completion data. We see that around half of the students who apply to the college don't complete the process. And there could be many reasons for that. I'm sure that you can all think of a few reasons right off the top of your head. Some students apply to multiple colleges, especially the students who are seeking health technology programs. Some students may want to see where they are admitted first and perhaps what type of financial offer they're going to get from various colleges. So there's lots of reasons that students may not complete the process, or that they may not follow through on some aspects of it. But almost half of the students not doing so is something that we want to pay attention to. And then of the half that don't complete the process, more than half of those are Black students. And we'll take a look at some service area data in just a minute that might bring that home just a little bit more. Now you do have a pretty strong fault. I believe this is a fall-to-fall retention rate of 59%. But what that means, though, is that a third of your students aren't continuing on once they're enrolled in the college. And a third is a pretty decent number of people to think about. And then 2/3 of your students don't graduate, while a third do. So there's plenty of room here to think about, the students that think about Central Carolina, but then do not come, and then the students who do come and kind of what happens to them along the way. So there's a little bit of room to think about that. And so that's what got some attention when we were looking at the data. And then also, if we look at the 2018-2019 cohort, about half of the students either couldn't complete the enrollment process or they didn't know that they were accepted. And so that points to perhaps some technology issues that folks talked a little bit about. It may point to some communication questions that some folks talked a little bit about. And then, roughly the other half cited some financial difficulties, either personal or, some difficulty in being able to obtain the resources that they need to enter college and complete. So that's just a brief snapshot of some student data that propelled the evaluation. And of course, there are many ways to go much deeper into this student data, which is, I think, part of what we recommended that the college do as a next step, is to kind of dive into these numbers a little bit more and say, okay, well, what's really going on? with that half of students that do not continue in the process, and what really happened to the 20% of students that didn't know they were accepted. Who were they? Where do they live? Have they ever been to college before? How much of the process did they complete? So on and so forth. So we can go to the next slide. And we also looked at some of your qualitative student feedback data. Here, the college is very, very good about doing surveys with students. And so and also doing surveys with employees as well. And some of the things that showed up consistently in the student surveys and the employee surveys was a little bit of lack of satisfaction with onboarding from the student and employee perspectives. And then of the students who didn't complete the process, communication was listed as the #1 place where the college can improve its service to students. And then in the 2019-2021 student surveys, students talked about some issues with returning calls and emails, referrals, and onboarding procedures, which I think all kind of speak to some of the technology and communication issues that the focus groups talked about as well. So we can go on to the next slide. So one of the things that's always interesting to do is to tie your student data or compare your student data to your service area data. And so your service area is 3 counties, which you all know, Chatham, Harnett, and Lee counties. And so we took a look at data from around the counties, and you can see what the median area income is for all 3 counties, and that's based on the 2015-2019 census data. One of the interesting things, though, is that around a third of your population across all 3 of your counties are people of color. And so when you look at a third of your population being people of color, and then you look at more than half of the students who don't complete the application process as being, are Black students, then you have kind of a real mismatch there, I think, between the level of service that you desire to provide and then the level of service that may actually be happening within that population. And so that's something to think about. And then one of the other interesting things for me anyway is that the education attainment level across the counties is around 25%. So 25% rather, let me say it this way, 25% of the population across the counties has some college and no degree. So that means that there's about a fourth of the folks who live in Chatham, Harnett, and Lee counties who have taken college courses somewhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be at Central Carolina, but somewhere, but they didn't complete. And so that's a fourth of your population that you could serve, I think pretty readily because they've made some progress already. When we talk about completion by design kind of way back in the day in the lost momentum framework, 25% of the people in your service area got started, but then they fell off somehow. And so you've got a real opportunity there to harness the momentum that those students already gained at some time previous to what we're looking at now. So those are just a few ways and very kind of surface level ways as well to take what's happening at the college and then looking at what's happening within the service area and saying, okay, I think we do have some things that we can think about, and I think that we do have some gaps that we can fill, and we do have some ways in which our service can be smoothened for lots of our students, for all of our students really. And so we can go on to the next slide. And taking it even a step further, so we've looked at some of your student data, your qualitative and quantitative data, and then we've looked at some of your service area data. And so we say then, okay, well, how is the college kind of moving forward in this context? And your strategic plan that goes from the year 2020 to 2024 very clearly sets goals for the college to ensure service to all populations of your service area. And so goal number 2, clarifying student pathways, and goal number 3, ensuring that students progress on pathways, are 2 very significant parts of the strategic plan that the college says, okay, we really want to make sure that we are serving all of our service area to the very, very best of our ability. And what we're going to do in order to ensure that is improve and expand student-facing information. We're also going to strengthen our connection to the high schools and what they know about the college. And then we're also going to decrease the percentage of students who change their primary programs, which means that that communication and that technology piece and the advising piece very, very early in the process is going to be super important. And then under goal number 3, to ensure that students progress on a path once they've chosen the correct one, the college says, well, we want to be sure that all of our support services are integrated so that students can get the appropriate service and the appropriate support along the places in their trajectory where they need it the most. And then we also want to be sure that the onboarding experience sets them up for success, so that by the time they sit in class for the very first time, they've got all their things taken care of, and all they have to do is focus on learning what the content of that class is presenting. And then the third thing is that the college wants to identify resources that will assist students in persisting by addressing the barriers. So once they're enrolled in the college and once they've started on their pathways, what is it that we can give them that's going to help them get past some hurdles that they experience? Because we all, as students, I think, experience hurdles along the way. And so that's going to continue. And so what can we do to identify those and ensure that they're addressed? So the evaluation findings tied in very, very well, I think, with the strategic plan that's in place now through 2024. And then it also ties in very, very well to the Title III project that you're going to be doing, that you're going to be engaging in over the next several years. And so we can go to the next slide. And I'm going to turn this over to Daniel now to talk a little bit about what happens from here. So we've evaluated, we know what we're committed to, we know what we wanted, we know some things that we can do to improve. And so how did the college come into the Title III work? So Daniel, you can take it from here.
Yeah. Morning, everybody. First, I want to say, what we've done so far, we've looked at those elements of exceptional service, and the comments that you guys made today really reflects what we saw in the evaluation. We've talked about some of the data we looked at throughout the evaluation process, and a lot of this data also went into the Title III application. And now we're going to look at the response, sort of what we're going to do going forward. And I say we, Belk Center and Central Carolina, working together. Obviously, most of the work is going to happen on your end. We're going to be providing an evaluative and advisory role. But the response to make changes takes resources. And so Central Carolina has applied for a Title III grant. And congratulations. It's a big deal. And this went much faster. Your grant got approved very quickly. I think it shows the strength of the application and the ideas that the Navigate team has put together. The grant is for 5 years, $2.1 million. And the program is CCCC Navigate. I'm going to refer to it as Navigate because if I keep trying to say C's, I'm going to say the wrong number most of the time. So I'll just refer to it as Navigate from here on out. Your college now has some funds to address these changes, and there's a plan in place to try and bring about some of the improvements to bring the services that you're providing closer in line with those elements of excellent service that I think most of us recognize what those are, but there's always challenges in reaching that goal that we want to attain. The big picture outcomes of Navigate are that we want to increase those numbers. So when you look at the data, the evaluation, we want to increase enrollment, increase retention, increase graduation and credential attainment. Those are very numeric things that we are going to measure as we go through this program, and as a part of the evaluation process, we will be measuring these outcomes, and we want to see those outcomes go up as a result of Navigate. The second point is we want to increase satisfaction, and that's on the part of students as well as employees. Students obviously experience challenges when they're trying to enroll, when they don't have the right information, or when they aren't sure what their next step is. But employees, both faculty and staff, experience those challenges too. When they have a student who's asking them a question and it's something they should have gotten done 3 months before classes start, and they're trying to get done the day before classes start. I'm sure that many of you have had that experience. And that's hard for us as employees. I say us, I was also a community college employee for a very long time, so I've experienced this too. It's hard for us when a student comes and says, I thought I had it all done, classes start tomorrow, and now something's wrong. Because I know, and from talking to many of you, we all care about those students, and we want them to get into that class. We want them to be successful, and now we have this burden on us of, oh no, what happened? How do we fix this in what is always not enough time with not enough resources? So we want to increase that satisfaction. We want to reduce those challenges and make it easier for students to get into the programs that they want to be in and to enroll in their classes, to get the financial support they need, and for employees, faculty, and staff to be able to provide the support that the best service they can to students. And then the third aspect to navigate that was written in the grant is to strengthen the financial stability of the Dreamkeeper program. The Dreamkeeper program has been pretty successful at providing buffering support to students who experience unexpected or emergency financial burdens, and the data has shown that that's been really beneficial. The students who, when they have that $100 unexpected thing that might derail a student from degree completion, the Dreamkeeper program, being able to quickly respond to that need, can be the difference in a student losing momentum and dropping from their degree program and dropping from the college entirely, and versus getting over that challenge and persisting and reaching degree attainment. So that program has been shown to be successful, and one of the outcomes for Navigate is to increase the financial stability of the Dreamkeeper program. Oops. To accomplish these, to try and reach these outcomes, there's some planned activities. Now, this is the beginning of a 5-year grant. This is not going to be really heavy on details because the grant provides for formative. Part of what the Belk Center is going to do is formative evaluation, meaning making recommendations. And we still have a lot of work to do to make sure that we're making the right recommendations and to make sure that the steps that we're taking are effective. Movement without progress doesn't help us. So we're really, this is going to be a very big overview picture, a lot of details still to come, but we want to enhance the onboarding, advising, and communication. Those are the processes, the staffing models, all of those types of things that the students have to interact with, and you as faculty and staff have to exist in to provide support to students. We're planning on restructuring some of the onboarding and advising models to reduce the number of touch points for students. When a student has to talk to 8 different people on 3 different campuses just to get into their classes, every one of those touch points is a place for a student to get lost or to lose momentum and to drop off, and that's where that half of students who apply never enroll comes from. And so one of the goals is to restructure the model so that a student who comes in accomplishes a higher percentage of what they need to get done with fewer touch points, so that there's less opportunities for that student to get dropped or to get confused or to not persist. Establishing an endowment for the Dreamkeeper Fund. Obviously, that was a pilot, the Dreamkeeper Fund was sort of a pilot that was started, and the goal is to build an endowment that will make it permanent. And trying to address some of the inefficient communication and the processes that have been a challenge with the implementation of a customer relationship management suite. And the targeted software is called Slate CRM. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I did want you to see, this is just one of their demonstration screenshots of what Slate is. It's a comprehensive customer relationship management that tries to pull together all the interactions that you have with a student into one place. So instead of having to go to one place for enrollment data, to another place for advising data, for another place for records, it's all in one place. And when you go to look at a student, you look in one place and you really get a complete picture of what is happening with that student. And you're able to make sure that when you address when they have a question, that you address that question, but you can also see and anticipate other things that maybe they missed. those items that get confusing and they may not have kept track of throughout the whole process, and make sure that they don't reach that day before class before they realize that something's wrong, that when something is missing, that gets addressed 2 months in advance or a month in advance. And to avoid that, and one of the things that we heard a lot in the evaluation process and talking to in our focus groups is that peak time, as we all know, is just crazy. There's so many students trying to get so much done in the 5 days before classes start, and it's just overwhelming and basically impossible to keep up with that workload for the employees who are trying to keep up with that. The goal of a CRM like this is to spread that peak out, to make sure that all of those issues get addressed earlier in the process, so that the flood is, there's always going to be a flood, but that it is reduced, and that your tools, the tools at your disposal to address that flood and to help those students are more efficient and easier to deal with. So over the next 5 years, there are going to be opportunities for improvements in all areas of the college. I think that you're going to see these changes throughout the college, and it's going to make a difference everywhere. You will probably notice these changes regardless of your position. If you're faculty, you're going to see it when you're talking to students about what classes they're enrolled in and you're advising them. If you're obviously student services with the admissions and application and records, you're going to see the biggest changes. But regardless of where you are in the college, you're going to see these changes, and you're going to notice them. And over the next 5 years, the Belk Center is here to support and navigate through evaluation. Holly isn't actually able to make it on the call today, but myself, Kim, and Dracia will be a part of the team. We're here to support and navigate through evaluation, and I wanted to walk through briefly our evaluation plan. We'll be providing annual formative, quantitative, and qualitative assessment. So these formative assessments will be making recommendations. We'll collect data and say, here's what's working, here's what's not. Here are some recommendations of things you could do better as we progress to navigate. Here are other changes you could make. Year-end evaluation reports take all of those data and say, this is what has happened over the past year. This is where more of those numerical things like retention rates, application rates, students moving from application to enrollment, those type of data will go into the comprehensive year-end evaluations. Recommendations to the steering committee and president's council. So we will have an opportunity to take the information that comes from employees and student feedback and turn those into recommendations. And at the end of 5 years, we'll be doing the final summative project report that says, here is where we started, here are our goals, this is what we did, these are the changes we made along the way, and this is the outcome. And with the goal of reaching some of those outcomes that we talked about earlier to really improve the student experience. So at this time, we're going to go into another little activity. And we as evaluators want to start thinking about how this is going to impact employees early in the process. We don't want changes to happen and for that to be the first time that people are thinking about, well, how does this impact the person working this desk or advising a student? And so we want you to think now about how some of these changes are going to impact your life as an employee at Central Carolina. And we're going to move into breakout groups. I think there's going to be maybe 8 to 10 people in each group. And I want you to spend about 5 minutes, actually probably about 7 or 8 minutes. So each person just spend a little time talking to the group about how these types of changes might impact your life, how these changes will matter to you, and so that you can start to think, once we start doing these evaluations, we're going to be asking you as employees, what's going to need to change, how is this going to matter to you, and we want you to start thinking about that now so that when we ask those questions, we're getting the great information that we need to make good formative recommendations to the Navigate Steering Committee. So I think Dracia has the breakout groups set up, and you're going to move to breakout rooms, and we will call you back probably about 10:51, and we may pop into a room or two to listen to what you're talking about. So once you get into a room, just spend a few minutes for each person to talk to each other about what is happening, how these changes will impact you.
Okay, here we go. think it worked.
It does look like it worked. I'm gonna see. Oh yeah. Any thoughts? I was gonna go and drop into some of the groups and listen.
Yeah.
Looks like we have some people who are heading out.
Yeah.
That's why I made the groups a bit bigger. I was like, let's leave a little room.
Yeah, there may be some that aren't in, or whatever they're doing, they might not be in a place where they can participate, and they don't want to sit in there and be silent.
That's fine. All right. I'm gonna go into the group and
I just want to say that I really appreciate this presentation, based on what the rest of the college has learned so far in the last few weeks about this project. This gives everyone a lot of wonderful background, and it's just a really good setup to the changes that will be going on in the next couple months. So I appreciate this.
So you think we've done okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, it looks like Adam needs to be.
Yeah,
Put back
I'm
in the
moving to a
breakout room.
group.
I think I moved him and I forgot to hit update. I think I just moved him though.
Yeah,
Looks like it.
perfect.
Yep. I'm going to chat Dr. Chapman right quick and see if there's anything she wants to add whenever you wrap up.
Yeah, I was gonna. Thanks. I had thought about that too.
I'm gonna go into group 6 and listen.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna hang out and make sure nothing goes left on the technology side.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang out here too because I don't want to touch anything.
I thought, I was like, Kim probably is not gonna explore.
Oh my God. I am just bad.
It's okay. We all have our strengths, and technology technology has been a challenge for the past 2 years.
Well, you think it wouldn't be at this point, but I think I've officially entered the land of old people, because my nephews, when we got our iPhones a couple years ago, my nephew said, "Aunt Kimmer, if you need help with your phone, let me know." Like,
Oh gosh.
he was 16. I'm like, well, you are the one who will know. So.
Oh, that is so funny.
My in-laws, who are in their 70s, my mother-in-law got a smartphone probably a year or two ago, and I have to help her with it every few months. But now my father-in-law, who is late 70s, got one, and woo, I pray for the people at whatever cell phone carrier he has at the store that have to deal with him, because he comes in there probably weekly saying, this phone's messed up and it's not doing this and that, and like, who gave him a smartphone? Give him his flip phone back, please.
So funny.
I know my next door neighbors are retired and have grandchildren, but they don't do shopping online at all, and so they found out we could do it. And so during the Christmas season, it was, I get a phone call, Kim, can you come over? We need to order such and such. Kim, I want to order this. Can you come help me with that? Kim, can you? So I think I probably did 5 or 6, different order sessions for them, which was fun for me because, my family doesn't do that anymore, but it was funny.
No,
So I'm not as bad. I'm not as, entrenched in the non-tech crowd as some people are.
I can promise you're light years ahead of my in-laws. So my dad worked for Nortel many years ago, and I guess from that has always been anti-Apple. And when he got a smartphone a few years ago, it was one of I guess it was like an Android or something. And I have had Androids in the past, but you know, Apple and iPhones are just more user friendly, I feel like. And
Mhm.
he hated that phone so much, and I was like, Dad, just switch, please. For all of our sanity, just switch to iPhone. It will be the only Apple product you ever have to buy. And he finally did, and he has no more issues. It's amazing. So, but he felt like he was selling his soul to the devil or something by purchasing an Apple product. I
Poor
really,
thing.
I can't believe we actually got him to do it. But
Well, that's what we did. We had Androids and we switched to iPhones, and they're different enough to where for a little while you don't know how to do things, and
mhm.
so that's where my nephews came in. Aunt Kimmer.
I love that.
I'm back. There's some good conversations happening in other rooms.
Oh, good.
Good.
Although I did hear, Aaron, from one of the groups I went in, they said that a lot of them are currently, like one of them has this up on one screen while they're helping a student register. that they are currently engaged in the process we were talking about, and
Yeah,
they're,
I figured that might happen.
but
Does Blackboard Collaborate do like a countdown like Zoom, or do you just kind of abruptly stop their conversation and bring them back?
I'm not sure.
I think it does a countdown. Let me.
Well, I said we're gonna go until 51, and it's 51, so I'm gonna hit end, and hopefully that'll bring everyone back properly.
Perfect.
She's so sweet. I've never seen her with her hair up. And so we finished. What? I'm a little confused.
You're back in the main room, Dr. Chapman.
You cut me off in the middle of my statement.
I'm sorry.
I didn't do it, Aaron. I didn't do it.
Was it Daniel that did that? Okay, I'll remember that it was Daniel.
It was definitely me, yeah, and I've actually not used Collaborate a lot, and with Zoom you get like a 1 minute countdown. That's all I'm used to. Sorry about that. But all right. All right. So just a moment while everyone get back in. All right. So all of you, I got to drop into a couple of rooms. It sounded like there's some great conversations going. I also heard some people saying that they were in the process of helping students register for classes right now, which makes us all very timely, but you keep doing that because that's more important than our presentation. I did want to mention that we are recording this presentation, and Erin said that it will be available through the employee whiteboard, I believe she said. She may clarify that if I said that incorrectly, but that this presentation will be available to others, so if someone wasn't able to make it, there is an opportunity for them to see it. There's 60 people in this room, and we don't have a chance to hear feedback from everybody as much as I would love to, but as evaluators, I think it's really important for us to start hearing from you as employees as early as possible, and so we want to hear from you. Now, this is not a formal evaluation. This isn't going into any reports. This is just a chance for us to Erin clarified it'll be the professional development Blackboard site is where this recording will go. So on this next slide, this QR code. If you are familiar with those, if you point your smartphone's camera at this QR code, it should give you a little option to open a link to a Google form, or Dracia, I think, is going to be sharing the Google link in the chat, and it's really short. It's just a couple questions. If you had something in your small group that you thought was important, or that we as evaluators should know now, we just want to start hearing from employees as early as possible so that we start to take your views into consideration as we are going through this evaluation process, as we're making recommendations. Because each of you are the ones who end up dealing with this on the ground, and these changes are going to impact you a lot. That's why we had that conversation, and we want to take your views into account as early as possible. So again, this is nothing formal. We won't we didn't even include a place for you to put your email, so we won't know who it comes from. If you really want to talk to us specifically, you can put your name and email in there, and we will try and follow up with you. But very informal, but we want to hear from you as early as possible. It's about 5 minutes before we're in, but it sounds like everyone has plenty to do. I'm going to hand it back over to Kim to see if there's anything else to close the session.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. It's so good to see all of your faces. Some are familiar and some are new to us, but I feel like hopefully we've gotten to know each other a little bit more through this process. And thanks so much for your participation in the activities. Dr. Chapman, I wanted to offer you a time to share something if you would like to. I think I'm probably putting you on the spot, so I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you are not the least bit sorry about that.
No, not really, but you know.
And Daniel's not the least bit sorry for cutting me off. I know you guys, don't worry about it. But let me just say, I appreciate the fact that there were several folks listening in today and engaging. And I think you can see, my friends at Belk, exactly what you saw when you came here. Our college family cares deeply about our student success, not just about being here and working with students, but ensuring that students get where it is they are trying to go when they come through us. And so it always invigorates me to see that. I appreciate the presentation because I think you did a much better job of connecting some of the things that I have been trying to share with them since we were awarded the Title III grant. But I will just close, and I don't know if I'll turn it back to Aaron before we actually sign off, but I will close by saying that what I hope you all see, in fact, I was in conversation with Dr. Crane at the system office today, and I have said this repeatedly to our college family. I have said it publicly within our community, publicly across the state. I do believe that North Carolina has all of the best post-secondary pieces to ensure that our citizens, our residents can achieve their goals. What I also know is we have all these pieces and we've still been working. We kind of pulled a lot of them together fairly quickly, and we didn't know enough about them to really take advantage of making them work for us. And this is our opportunity to do it. So not only is North Carolina going to have all of these pieces and them be aligned, but Central Carolina will. And I absolutely believe that we've got the most passionate people, and now we're going to have the most passionate people doing their very best work because of how things are going to be aligned as we move through this project. So thank you guys for making some of those connections for us, and thank you, college family, for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. And yes, the three of us could wholeheartedly agree. You do have an exceptional faculty and staff at Central Carolina, and it was absolutely loud and clear that everyone is 100%, maybe 200% or more dedicated to student success. So the evaluation process was a real pleasure, and I know that it's going to be a pleasure for us to continue supporting the Title III work over the next few years. So many thanks to everyone, and unless anyone has some final thoughts or comments they want to share, I think we are all set to sign off.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Daniel and Dresha. As I said in the chat, this was extremely helpful and very much appreciated to help us all get the background information on where we are now and where we're headed with this project. So I really appreciate it. That is it for this session. I am adding the sign up link again in the chat box in case you want to attend our closing keynote session this afternoon, or our rescheduled session tomorrow morning from Dean McMeekin and Dr. Long. I had the opportunity to hear their presentation last night at Adjunct Night, and it was wonderful. So I really encourage you to sign up for that if you have not already. So with that, we'll close and hope you have a great rest of the day.
Bye.